Welcome back from the break. Now we're going to be talking about the rise of Vox. Vox is the last party to arrive to Spanish politics, and is quite connected to the leadership of Santiago Abascal, that we are going to mention where, well, how both fates were more or less, came together, and how the party started in 2013. 2013 it seems like ages ago, but it's not that long ago whatsoever in politics. But why are the people from Vox coming from? Actually, they were members, and he Santiago Abascal as well. They were members of Partido Popular, PP. So actually coming from the right-wing party in Spain, but they weren't happy with the politics of Partido Popular, and they thought that they were not tough enough on certain issues, and how they were like in the middle of nowhere, and they were not representing the conservative movement anymore. And I'm sure you can find parallelisms between the fate of Vox and parties in other places in the world. However, in this case, they decided to form a new party, as they were unable to as they were unable to grasp power within their own party, and they formed Vox from 2013. The beginning of Vox was very basic, actually, and this is actual picture of the very early stages of Vox in 2013, 2014, as they had no structure. There have been debates where have Vox got their financing from. They actually, there are debates how they actually got them from Iran at some point, and this is not being denied by the party. But the beginning of Vox was very basic, was very humble. I don't know if that's a word or not, but yeah, rallying in the street, trying to get the word out there, participating in demonstrations, getting into anything that the conservative movement was organizing. There were several former politicians of Partido Popular, so actually they did have some media exposure, even though it was limited. At the beginning, it was pretty much thought of as a bunch of fools, that they were going nowhere with this political party. And that was the case up until 2018. Fall 2018, everything changed, and it begins to change with the position that Vox takes with Catalonia and the pro-independence referendum, and how Vox positioned itself clearly against the referendum to have a tougher position than the Mariano Rajoy government with Catalonia. They even bring the case to the courts to try to halt all these movement that the Catalan government was doing, and actually that gave them even more media exposure. And late 2018 there were elections, but no Spain level. There were elections actually, as you can see in the picture, here in Andalusia. And in Andalusia is the first time that Vox gets any kind of representation in regional or national elections. First time. They got 10% of the vote, which is actually quite significant. And yeah, they got representation in Andalusia. They were able to facilitate the government of Partido Popular with their votes in parliament. So actually, they enter the political scene in a significant way. Because if we look at the track of the results in elections of Vox, you can see the trajectory, and this is, this is incredible. How the party was created in 2013, as I said before, but 2015 and 2016 they get nothing. This is absolutely nothing national level. However, in 2019, after the Andalusian elections that took place December 2018, in the April elections they already got 2.6 million votes, that's 10%, and 24 seats in parliament. And in the elections in November, they became the third political party in Spain. So they're right now a very significant political actor, and they're outspoken in parliament, and they can now determine, and now they can impact the agenda. So actually, you can see how the rise of Vox is a consistent trajectory from nothing, from being just some renegades of Partido Popular, to be a quite relevant political party. 15% of the vote is quite significant. Even though right now the polls are not very favorable, they're not really good for them. Since they're dropping, but still quite significant that a far right wing political party, it's the third party in Spain. Because what is Vox? Is a right wing populist party. no questions asked. Because if we look at the manifesto, if we look at their speeches, we look at what they defend, we see that they are an anti-immigration party. Actually, the place where they get the most votes is where there are more immigrants, particularly immigrants that are working in the countryside or similar jobs. And that's where Vox is gaining more traction. And they have never hidden this kind of speech. They are what we call neo-nationalism, trying to close it once again in the nation, and actually that's quite connected to anti-globalization. And the anti-nationalism, got a lot of traction in Spain because of Catalonia. By the end of the day, they were opposing the independence of Catalonia through the reinforcement of the Spanish identity and the Spanish values. And that narrative gained a lot of attention from the media and allowed Vox to capitalize on it and to steal a lot of votes from Ciudadanos, actually. That's a cleavage, that's a political question where Vox is clearly taken advantage of Ciudadanos in 2019, and it's been, and took their position as representative of those who defend Spain against Catalonia, so to say. And last but not least, your anti-environmentalism. And this is a trend. Vox denies that climate change is taking place and that any measures that can harm the economy are to be taken, because climate change is not such a big problem. And actually solutions, if necessary, will come with the advance of technology. That's pretty much what they're saying. But I have to say that actually, if you watch for example, the debate of the elections of 2019, the speeches are empty. There's nothing there. And the way of communicating of Vox, it might resemble others, because they simplify the messages quite a lot, and they use social media, they use Twitter quite a lot. Simplifying politics. If your political speech can feed a tweet, then that means that your discourse is not very powerful, is not very elaborated. And that's the case for Vox. Actually, the political party that has the most followers on Twitter, and they capitalize on it. We've seen it in the elections. And can we compare them? Yeah, actually, Spain was one of the last countries in Europe to develop a right-wing populist party. Others had done before. This is Marine Le Pen in France, that actually was a challenger with Emmanuel Macron in the last presidential elections. So actually, in France, they are also a relevant movement, even though now they're a little bit. They're having internal disputes, but also, for example, in Italy with Matteo Salvini, who was vice president of the Italian government up until last summer, when there was that will be a whole other class to explain Italian politics. But Matteo Salvini, who was vice president of the vice prime minister of Italy, is also a party that has a lot of similarities with Vox. But it's pretty much what we said before. This is kind of new right-wing populist parties with empty speeches, protecting all borders, blaming the others from the outside, trying to get the economy working, and talk about freedom as if it was what was driving you, and simplifying the discourse. That's pretty much the identity of these new parties. If we understand, also talking about the people and how you care about the people and identify that with the nation and nationals of the country, and how the politicians have forgotten about the people. But at the end of the day, these are the two key elements of populism. Kind of taking ownership of the opinion of the people on the one hand, and criticizing the status quo and the establishment. And I'm sure that with that definition, you can compare these to other political parties or politicians in other places in the world. So this was about it. I hope you more or less understand now what Vox is and what Vox means in Spanish politics. I hope you enjoyed the course. It was a pleasure. I wish we could have finished it face to face, but all the best. If you need anything, please do not hesitate on emailing me. I'll try to reply as soon as possible. We'll stay in touch throughout this week to work towards the final exam. And So have a nice day. Bye.